Welcome to How We Got Here Genealogy. I'm Brian Nash, and today, for those of you watching live, uh, feel free to ask questions in the chat. And if you're watching this on the replay, you can leave a comment. Just let me know you're watching the replay. So, summer is kind of a busy time of year for me. With my Parkinson's, it's not always the greatest and easiest to do some recordings, but also where I live, there tends to be a lot more traffic, and during the days, and I have my window open, so it makes for a lot of background noise when I'm recording videos. So I'm going to try doing some live streams over the summer. I want to answer your questions. I want to work with you and see what I can do to help you with your own family research and your own family dream. So, I want to talk tonight actually a little bit about something that's bothering me, and it's actually one of the really important reasons to me to do and have an understanding of your own family history. It's this whole revisionist culture that we live in. Some people call it woke, some people call it whatever you want. But when it comes to history, I think people with European heritage have gotten a really bad rap. Some deservedly so, individuals, but just people that are people that are of European heritage that are just living their lives now. And even when you look at their ancestors, they've taken it on the nose for things they're not responsible for, things that they didn't do at all. I think it's really important. That's one of the reasons why I want people to understand their own family history, so they understand where they're coming from. Not to put a whitewash over the bad things that happen, but there's a lot of good things that happened with our families, and a lot of our families and Europeans went through quite a struggle when they arrived in North America or other places. And again, often we paint with a wide brush, and we tend to cause people to feel guilt or not really understanding what their own immigrant ancestors had to go through. So if you're new to my channel, you won't know this, but if you've been around, you'll know that I'm of Scottish and Irish heritage. My father's side is Irish, my mother's side is Scottish. Pretty much that's it. My DNA has little bits of other things, but generally it's the Scottish and Irish, and what I can trace is. And it wasn't always easy for these two groups to come over here in North America. It wasn't easy for people that were English from England that came over here, or Wales or France necessarily. Not everybody was property owners. Not everybody had a strong family income or when they came here. For instance, on my Scottish side of the family, they all came here and worked in homelands, worked very hard, to own their own home. On my mom's side of the family, Scottish, my mom's fathers were all coal miners. My mom's mother's side, they were farmers, and they worked land that they were given, small pieces of land, and there was they, they did a lot to. They had a hard time getting by. Um, so that's really important to understand. Like these two groups of people, the Scots and the Irish, particularly when they came to North America, um, weren't always under the best of circumstances. Um, a lot of the Scots came here. In fact, the majority of Scots that came to North America in the mid 1700s to mid 1800s were because of the Highland Clearances. The Highland Clearances were an awful, event that happened in Scottish history, where they basically cleared people off the land that their family had for centuries. Their clans had, and they'd been working the land in sometimes very nomadic people, but they still had this sort of land that it wasn't their own. They knew that, but they were renting the land. They were tenant farmers, and somebody in Scotland got the idea that this land is a lot more valuable to raise sheep. So let's raise sheep and get rid of people. And that's the Highland Clearances. And that's why my ancestors came to North America. They basically cleared off their lands. My mother's maternal side, they were from the Highlands. They and the Isle, or the Western Isles, and they basically had to make way for sheep. On my mother's father's side, in the Scottish, they were Highlanders, and then they were in the lowlands, and they wound up first going to Glasgow and Edinburgh to work in mines there, and in the industry, and eventually that led them to Canada. Now the Irish, at about the same time, more in the 1840s was when the potato famine happened, and that was a large group of Irish who came over to North America. And they were essentially slaves when they got here. They were indentured servants. A lot of them had to basically raise the money once they had that debt when they came here. They didn't come with their own free will. They would have preferred to have stayed in Ireland, and just as the Scots would have preferred to stay in their homelands. It would have been much better for them. They would have been, not. They basically were forced here on economic circumstances, or literally as refugees in the instance of the Scots. The Irish had it really a lot harder. The Irish were really seen as second or third class citizens. They were hardworking people, but they were deemed to be a little bit of lower class in a lot of people's eyes, especially since they did have to come here as servants and slaves. My father's side of the family, they were fishermen. They wound up coming over here being fishermen and businessmen, and working in the shipyards and on the docks in Nova Scotia. There were no slave owners. There were no plantations in my family's history. At least none I've been able to trace. And I've been able to trace my family history back to their origins in Scotland and Ireland. And my family weren't landowners because they had large estates when they came here. The ones that became landowners, basically, they had been given a grant of land because of the clearances. It wasn't the best land. It was to farm. It was rocky. It was it, it, it was a hard way to make a living in the cold and the hard winters. They came here. In my family that came here, they came here in the fall. Um, they came here in the fall. One particular ancestor I'm thinking of, and he had land. He had no food, barely any money. Um, not able to be able to have crops and harvest them for the winter, so he'd have provision. So I had to rely on the kindness of other Scots. And that's really truly who made Canada were the Scots in large part. They were the people that the British Empire used to populate a lot of their territory, again because they were forced off the land, and they had a need. They could speak English. A lot of them would have been considered better educated, at least more so than the Irish. Even the farming class were well read. They were Protestant, which was important, whereas the Irish were Catholics for the most part. There were Protestant Irish. On my side of the family, the Irish were Catholics. And religions played a really important part in both of my ancestor groups' lives. On the Scottish side, having come here and established churches in their communities, being very active in their churches, being leaders, being those people who would be leaders in the community and through the church, and that was their community. They were, in the Scottish side of my family, they were very musical. There is a deep, both cultures, music, storytelling, and it's really important that their stories get told, and that the people that are living today, that are their descendants, realize that while bad things happen to some people groups, their family might not have been involved in it at all, or if they were involved, have an understanding, so they can seek if they feel the need, they can seek some kind of reconciliation. It's really important that you have that understanding. It's important to everybody to have that understanding where they come from. If you're from the South and your family were slaveholders, and you feel the need that you have to seek some type of reconciliation, then do it. But do it on the terms of understanding your family history, understanding where they came from, understanding how your family lived, how they made their resource, their income, how also understand the times, and understands the local history of that area, because it's a lot into helping you determine what's appropriate. My Scottish ancestors in Cape Breton lived in an area that there were a lot of native fishermen and farmers, and they lived beside them within the communities. They took some of the communities, the local names of the indigenous people, and they settled there. They settled beside. They didn't come as conquerors. They didn't come as colonizers. They came as um, people trying to make a living, trying to survive. Um, they brought some of their Western culture, their religion, um, their civilization, and wasn't a matter of about thinking about colonization and genocide. It was a matter of thinking you had something better you wanted to share. Um, Much like myself, when I go to church, I have friends, I know people that aren't Christians, and when I invite them to church, it's not any type of mass movement. I'm not trying to um, stifle their own heritage and their own culture. I just really am excited about Jesus and what he's done in my life, and I want to share that with people. Things I have knowledge of. Well, like technology, when I was younger, I was always kind of a geek and a nerd and on the forefront of new technology, and I wanted to share that. I was excited about it, and it wasn't that I wanted to get rid of something. I wanted to share what I have and make better for people. I wanted to help. Anyways, kind of rambled on here for the last uh, 15, 20 minutes or so. And I want to hear from you now. I want to talk to you. I want to hear about your family, what you're doing in your family research. Um, what type of questions do you have? What do you know about your ancestors? Where did they come from? Um, how did they live when they first came to North America or Australia or New Zealand or wherever they wound up? Um, do you know their names? Do you know the communities they were from? Do you know the communities that they left behind? And what do you know about them? So I always do this at the end of every live stream, and I'm going to be doing these more often. I'm going to do a few times a week. I'm going to try them different times. It's probably always going to be later than 10, just because 10 Atlantic, just because that's when the traffic kind of stops and I can have my window open and not be sweating to death. So, if you didn't get a chance to watch this live and you're watching in the replay, keep watching for other times. Like I said, I always have an opportunity for people to ask questions, and that's what we're going to do now. We're going to go to my last call.
Last call!
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I need to announce it's last call at the bar.
Oh. Last call!
So, it's last call. This is your chance to ask questions of me. Have anything you're working on, anything you're researching, you want to know some information, you want some help, you need to know even where just to start. Get it pointed. Ask away now. I'll give you a few minutes to type in the chat there and just let me know what you're having. And if you're watching this on the replay and you have questions, you can ask them in the comments. Always love to hear your comments. I really would love you to be able to support this channel. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you really want to support me and I'd ask you to become a channel member. It's $5 a month. It's I want to say a great value, but it really helps me. I'll be doing some specific member live streams from time to time. And, if there's somebody you want to see me talk to, put it in a comment. Add in the comment. Let me know what type of things you want me to deal with summer while I'm doing these live streams and afterwards. So, seeing as I don't have any questions yet, so I'm going to just let it go for now, and you have yourself a great evening. Enjoy, and remember, keep searching for your ancestors.
Things change. Farewell, my friend. Things change. Farewell, my friend. Farewell.